As I record this, Donald Trump is reportedly planning to sign an executive order that looks to push for the elimination of the United States Department of Education. This comes as part of a broader conservative plan to decentralize educational governance and transfer authority to states and local school districts. According to reports from CNN and the Wall Street Journal, this proposal would unfold in two steps. First, the Secretary of Education, which is Linda McMahon, would be tasked with drafting a plan to diminish the department through executive actions. Second, Congress would need to pass legislation to fully dismantle the Department of Education, which is a move that requires the direct involvement. The Department of Education has been a cabinet-level entity since 1979, established under President Jimmy Carter to ensure equal educational opportunities, enhance the quality of education, and uphold accountability in federal programs. Its responsibility includes distributing federal financial aid, connecting data on schools, and enforcing non-discrimination policies. Educational professionals and advocates across K-12 and higher education systems warn that such a move could worsen educational inequities, particularly in underfunded areas, and weaken enforcement of civil rights protections. Some people think closing the department would give states more freedom to solve local problems. But many are worried, especially leaders in education and those who care about fairness. This is a big issue for schools that don't get enough money, like HBCUs. One concern is losing federal rules that keep programs like Pell Grants available for low-income students. These grants help a lot of students, including many at public universities. Some critics worry that education could become unfair if states are the only ones in charge of it. They're also concerned about how laws like Title IX and the Civil Rights Act will be enforced. These laws protect students from discrimination, and they need federal support to work properly. While supporters argue for increased innovation and responsiveness at the state level, this proposal remains deeply divisive. Key questions linger. How will diminished federal oversight impact financial aid, college funding, and protections for marginalized students? And what does this mean for the public school funding that's already managed at the state and local level? What I'm the most worried about is not whether Congress will move to eliminate the Department of Education. There's decade of precedent that shows us that that just simply won't happen. And the House of Representatives has one of the slimmest majorities in its history. I believe a move of this magnitude will face bipartisan disapproval. The push to dismantle the Department of Education is not new at all. After Jimmy Carter elevated the Department of Education to a cabinet-level position, Ronald Reagan made it a campaign promise in 1982 to eliminate it. However, he faced significant pushback from the democratically controlled House of Representatives. But still, in his 1982 State of the Union address, Reagan specifically stated that he would push to dismantle the department.
The budget plan I submit to you on February 8th will realize major savings by dismantling the Departments of Energy and Education and by eliminating ineffective subsidies for business.
His efforts failed due to congressional pushback, but a priority to dismantle the Department of Education has been often a priority of conservatives. Donald Trump's push against diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and programs has already led to the cancellation of an HBCU conference that was set to be virtually hosted by Rutgers University on January 30th. At this point, as private citizens, there's not much we can do to stop what's occurring, because we did all we could do, which is vote. It is up to our elected officials to use the resources that they have, both legally and congressionally, to fight back against what's clearly a reshaping of our governmental functions that could hurt millions of Americans. And for what? Here's what we can do. What we can do is stay informed. By being informed, we can educate our network of family, friends, and peers about what's happening and what's at stake. And of course, our most immediate tool that we still need to use is voting. If we disagree with policies related to education or any other policy coming from the Trump administration or elected officials at the federal, state, and local levels, we can make our voices heard through the ballot boxes in 2025 and of course in the midterms in 2026. And hear me clearly, I've always said that voting and governance aren't the only ways to enact change, but they are the key mechanisms in our fight to create an American society where we can continue to thrive and succeed. Now, one thing I can promise and that I can do is make sure that our audience stays on top of this story, as well as others that directly impact HBCU life and also higher education. So please stay tuned.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.